Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to see you, bright and shining faces all around America this morning. Thanks so much for joining us for the sixth Sunday after Epiphany, otherwise known as Super Bowl Sunday. As you heard from our opening song this morning, we are, at least in the Sanders house, we are taking to the new American tradition of treating Super Bowl Sunday and as much of the following Monday as we can as a national holiday. And so we wanted to show you that song this morning, and I've got a brief video to play for you in just a moment. But since we just heard a very important gospel lesson, I want to spend a moment about that before talking about football. So we just read this lesson from the 6th chapter of Luke, which should sound familiar when Luke's telling us, "Blessed are they who are poor in spirit; theirs will be the kingdom of heaven," and then goes through this kind of litany that Jesus is preaching to the folks who are surrounding him at the Sea of Galilee. That should sound familiar because this sermon is commonly referred to as the Beatitudes. You see, the interesting thing, though, is that although Luke gives us his version of these Beatitudes, they only appear twice in the four Gospels. Matthew has his version, and Luke has the one we just read. Matthew's version is commonly referred to as the Sermon on the Mount and has these sayings that are very familiar to us. Blessed are they who are poor in spirit; theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. So if it seemed like Luke's was a little off by comparison today, that's the reason. There are two big differences. Luke's version has a little bit of a different language, but generally the same message. Matthew's is kind of the more commonly referred to. Matthew's includes the Beatitude, but is typically referred to as the Sermon on the Mount. And as we saw in our gospel lesson this morning from Luke, where Luke places this sermon and places this multitude of people who have come from all over, is called the Sermon on the Plain. So there are differences between these two. Ultimately, though, it's the same kind of structure. Blessed are these who are what we would today call marginalized or underprivileged, and then woe to those who have wealth and privileges and those who are full of themselves, because as we hear in our psalm this morning, they're putting their trust in mortals and not with God. I'll send out a discussion later this week about the differences between the Sermon on the Mount and the Sermon on the Plain for your reference, and we can discuss that in more detail maybe next weekend in a Sunday school format, because the differences are slight but important for those of us as Christians trying to make our way through the world. But since it's Super Bowl Sunday, we have a group of Christians to focus on this morning and send our prayers to. Some are from Los Angeles and play for a team called the Rams. The others are from Cincinnati and play for a team called the Bengals. And year after year, it never ceases to amaze me, the faith that players in the National Football League bring to them. And I hope that you'll notice today, if you get a chance to watch the Super Bowl, there are likely going to be lots of prayers going on each sideline. But then no matter how the game ends, year after year at the Super Bowl, no matter how the game ends, players from both sides, coaches from both sides, get together in the middle of the field, even while there's confetti going everywhere and folks are reveling or sad that they traveled to the Super Bowl and their team lost. But there's always a group of players from both sides kneeling in the middle of the field. And it always occurs to me, what are they praying for? And I think that having heard interviews of NFL players who get together, not just after the Super Bowl, but after every game, to pray in the middle of the field on bended knee, the theme is common. Thank you for getting us through this game in safety. Thank you for bringing us together in fellowship. Bless you. And please bless those who got injured during this game. Football is safer than it has ever been before, since it was played 150 years ago in many places. But still, it is a very violent game that includes a lot of collisions, a lot of injuries, sometimes the result of contact, sometimes just the result of the pace at which the game is played. But those prayers at the end echo the prayers that we're going to say today, that everybody who competes well and competes safely, and for those who get injured, that they will recover quickly. Amen. But you know, it's funny how much faith and football interact. I'm going to show you this brief video that I mentioned to you. It's really short, everybody. And so you gotta look fast. I see these boys watching from South Carolina. They've probably already seen it because it was really popular on Friday and Saturday from ESPN. But I'll set it for you real quick. There's a group of kids. They're all dressed warmly, so it looks like, and you can tell from the style of dress that they're somewhere in England or Ireland. It is an old stone building that surrounded them, and given their age, it's probably a school, maybe a church attached to a school. And for whatever reason, they appear to be at recess, basically, because someone has a football, and someone, it looks like, bets or challenges one of the clergy members to catch the ball. And he's being defended by one of the classmates. So watch and see how this unfolds. It's really pretty incredible. All right, can y'all see it in here? It's kind of small. Yeah, come on up. You're gonna love this.
Show and tell.
Yeah, show and tell.
All right, we're just gonna take all.
Yeah, come on, stand over here to my left.
Wow,
All right,
be nice
everybody.
to me.
I'm trying to navigate the dog too. Everybody, just real quick, you can see this freeze frame. His what appears to be a priest, the man who's catching the ball, is in a long black robe. That's called a cassock, and typically is worn when you're a clergy and out of doors. So he's wearing a cassock. For those of you who have been to high church before, usually the cassock is covered with a white piece of linen called a surplice, and you'll see altar, acolytes wear that, and members of the choir and everything. But watch how this unfolds. I'm going to try and keep my thing here. All right, ready?
Good catch, Father.
Isn't that wonderful? Look at that move. These boys from South Carolina would say that the kid in the orange jacket got his ankles broken because this priest just completely faked him out. All right, ready?
Oh.
Isn't that wonderful? So everybody,
Absolutely.
I share that with you. I share that with you this morning because even though football's got a lot of problems with it, and the National Football League in particular has issues that it wrestles with even today, not just the safety of its players and continuing to struggle with how to deal with concussions and CTE, the racial issues. There are 9 open positions for head coaches in the National Football League. The last I checked, the majority have been filled with guys that are white, even though 70% of the players in the league are black. But we take a look at that just pure joy and think, even though the National Football League has plenty of problems on the field and off the field to wrestle with, at its heart, it's a fun game that people enjoy. And I just love to hear those kids looking at that priest in that cassock who completely blew that kid away. That was awesome. And I can't help but think of the comments that came in. As I mentioned, this video from Instagram was just viral on Friday and Saturday. The bulk of the comments, and there were just too many. I wanted to read out some of them to y'all at church this morning, but there were 10,500 the last I checked when I downloaded that yesterday morning. They fall into 2 categories. And so I brought my cup with me just to show y'all. The National Football League team from New Orleans is called the Saints. We have a girl from Mississippi here in the house who's rooted for the Saints her whole life. So I've got a Saints cup here. The first set of comments about our clergyman who caught that pass was he's playing for the wrong Saints. He needs to join in in New Orleans, which I thought was great. The other one goes back to one of my favorite sayings, and Will, you and I talked about it yesterday before church. The bulk of the other comments, other than the Saints, were that was a real that was a real Hail Mary, because that is reminiscent of one of the most famous plays in NFL history, and now a saying that really is part of the American lexicon, part of our vernacular. Roger Staubach, the quarterback for the Cowboys in the 70s, who led them to 2 Super Bowl wins and was a Naval Academy man, won the Heisman Trophy. I mean, this guy is a really great football player, but also a devout Roman Catholic. And he brought his faith to the field every game, every play. And so the Cowboys were down to the Vikings in a very important game in the late 60s. Staubach dropped back, moved around a little bit, and threw the ball as hard as he could, 50 yards downfield, to a waiting receiver in the end zone as time expired. And so the Cowboys won the game and went on to the next level of the playoffs. In the locker room afterwards, the reporter asked Roger Staubach, well, what happened on that play? And he said, I don't know. I thought I saw my guy open, but I couldn't quite tell. In those days, the Vikings defense was so vicious that they were nicknamed the Purple People Eaters. And so Staubach had these guys in purple just coming down on him. And he said to the reporter, so I just closed my eyes, threw it as hard as I could, and said a Hail Mary. That's something. And so even today, when there's a long shot, there's something that you don't think is going to work, and there's very little chance of success, people say that all the time. Well, I just threw a Hail Mary. But I love that story because not only did it work, but folks since then continue to refer to the Hail Mary because it's such an important play and because of the success that it brought him. But I will tell you, as I mentioned in our email to get things started yesterday when I sent out today's service, everybody, the general topic is not who wins or loses when we talk about football. It's God's love for us. And ultimately on Super Bowl Sunday, sitting here knowing that there's a group of over 100 men getting ready to play, and a group of coaches and officials and just people who have worked their entire careers to get to this moment today. Does God care who wins? And I think the answer is no. Just like those players at the end of the game pray in a circle on bended knee to thank God for their safety and pray for the health and well-being of their teammates, God's view on this is really reiterated in the psalm that Roy read us this morning. Did y'all catch that at the very end, the last verse of the psalm? I, the Lord, test the mind and search the heart. God just wants to know that we're here and loyal to him and love him. And whether you're a Bengal or a Ram, a Saint or some other team, it's that faith in the Lord, that trust in God and not in mere mortals that will get us through and that will get the competitors through today, hopefully in one piece. So I hope you all enjoy a great Super Bowl Sunday today. I hope that you get a chance to have fun and fellowship with your friends, the virus allowing, and we will say shortly a prayer for all those competitors so that they may be safe and enjoy the competition regardless of who wins. I know in our house, our faith will be in the Lord. Amen.
Amen.
And with Christians around the world and across time, let's say together the Nicene Creed.